Morning, Ted Dillman with Full Team Professional Training. Today I'm going to do a single unit air pre-trip, and I'm going to do it on this fire truck. The way we start is always the same. We start by blocking our wheels, making sure we have good visible clothing on, and making sure we have some eye protection because we are going to end up going under the truck. So as we start, the first thing we would like to do is drain our wet tank. We have to drain a wet tank to make sure that there's no moisture in the system. So the way we do that is we start by looking at our reservoir gauges. They're at 100 psi. We'll drain our wet tank and see if our gauges have moved. If they haven't, that means that our one-way check valves are working. So I'm going to drain the wet tank right now. And we want to make sure that they're drained completely dry so that moisture doesn't blast away from the opening and stay inside the tank. All right, our air tank is drained. We're again going to look at our gauges to make sure that our primary and secondary air gauge has not dropped. And they have not. They're exactly where they're supposed to be. Now we're going to go to the front of the tractor and we're going to look at our front wheel brake, our steering axle brake, and our components under the hood. So as we start from here, we want to make sure that we look at our air compressor for securement and any leaks anywhere. This is the heart of our air system. So we're going to check and make sure it's secure. We're also going to look at our air discharge line. This line comes off the compressor and goes back to the air dryer, from the air dryer to the wet tank. So we want to make sure this guy is up and stable. We also want to look at our governor. He's the guy that turns our compressor on and off or loads and unloads it. He's secure and there's no damage anywhere on this. We're also going to look at our foot valve and we're going to make sure that our foot valve is secure and that we have no audible air leaks. So we're just having a listen to make sure everything is secure, there's no leaks. Perfect. Now, the next thing we want to do is look inside our wheel. And inside our wheel, we have our brake components, our foundation brake components. We have an air line that delivers the air to the chamber. We have a chamber that actually activates the foundation brake. We're going to grab this chamber and give it a shake. We want to make sure that it's secure and stable. We don't want it to be loose at all. We're also at this time going to look inside our wheel to make sure there's no contamination, any oil running down outside of our wheel. We want to make sure that our brake shoes are clean and free of debris if we can help it. The next thing we're going to do is what's known as a pry test. When we do a pry test, we're going to pull the push rod out of the chamber and see how far the stroke protrudes. As I push it here, you can see that it protrudes somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch, letting us know that our slack adjuster and our push rod and our brake are set to specifications. So we push it, we give it a little hold, make sure we know what we've got. And we can measure this with a tape measure, or we can take, I like to use my thumb and my finger. This is 3/4 of an inch. This is approximately 1/2 an inch. If I'm somewhere in there for stroke, my brakes are set to adjustment. The next thing we're going to do is come to the other side. Because whatever we do on one wheel, we want to make sure that we do on both wheels. So, or on all the wheels on the truck. Fortunately, I'll get rid of this guy so we can have a really good look. And again, we're going to look inside. We're going to look at our air lines and our valves. We're going to grab our chamber, give it a good sturdy shake. We're going to put in our pry test, and we're going to make sure it pries somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to look inside our wheel again for contamination and make sure there's no oils leaking inside our wheels. At that time, if we're satisfied, we'll put our equipment back together so that we can close our hood and continue on with our pre-trip.